Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the StarCraft world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Duckville here, bringing you a Zerg versus Zerg today from Heart of the Swarm. Should be a whole bunch of fun. It is part of the new patch, so keep in mind, Spore Crawlers now shoot like cruise missiles and Hunter Seekers and throw battle cruisers and Colossi at mutas up in the sky, so this should be really interesting. Our two players, starting up at the top right-hand side, is one of them. He's currently playing for Root Gaming after joining a little while ago, and they're performing really well in a couple of MLGs, making his way to the 2012 North American Battle.net Championship. It is Root Gaming's Fitzy. Both of these guys, of course, up on the Grandmasters level on the NA ladder. Down at the bottom left-hand side here, one of the players who has been making an absolute splash in the C scene, just winning all sorts of tournaments, whether they be in sort of Australian-based tournaments, New Zealand-based tournaments, or any sort of tournaments down here. One of the premier Zerg players, it is Frenetic Array's Petraeus. So, yeah, as I was saying, Fitzy, a player who joined up with Root quite a while ago after having a best of, what was it, a best of 21 show match with Puck or something like that to see who would join Root Gaming. Puck won at 11-8, if I remember correctly, and therefore got the spot, but then at the time, I think Katz was feeling very generous and said, you know what, we'll take both of you. So Fitzy got to play. He does utilize really, he's generally quite unconventional. If you would ever watch Fitzy play on his stream or anything like that, he utilizes some really weird openings from time to time. I haven't actually seen him too much in Heart of the Swarm, so I haven't been able to see if there's some crazy stuff he's doing in this particular matchup, but we'll see. Things have been changing in a Zerg versus Zerg. If anyone got to check out Meta, the show from Artosis on, what day was it? It was on like Tuesday or something like that. He had quite a few Zerg players on the show at the time. I think we saw Hydra, Pig, and Cats. A lot of discussion about Zerg-based things, especially Zerg versus Zerg, which is a matchup which has been going through a few changes since the Spore Crawler buff. So, for those of you who don't play Zerg, there was a little bit of a, let's call it a situation in Zerg versus Zerg, where effectively pre the 2.08 patch, a lot of the games, like, it sort of went to a position where whoever has the most mutas wins. Whoever gets their Spire first wins. Whoever has a good engagement with their mutas wins. And it was very, very muta centralized. And the reason for this, again, if you're not a Zerg player and you're not sure why this happens, it was sort of revolving around a third base. If you could throw down your third base, have it protected from any sort of outside muta threats or anything like that, you're in a good spot. If you were the player who wasn't able to get their third base up and running and mutas were continually coming in harassing you, you lose your third base, you lose these extra two gases that are here, and that means that you start falling further and further behind in the muta war. Now, the other reason why mutas were a very, very useful unit was that they are very mobile. They do a lot of damage. They are very mobile and can move around continuously, harassing your opponent and all these kinds of things, which is which is just a sort of signature part of being a Zerg player. But I mean, it kind of made the matchup a little bit boring, which is why we did have a change. Hopefully looking to change how the matchup goes, which was to buff the Spore Crawlers from no longer dealing, gosh, I can't remember what it was. I think it was 15 damage and then plus 10 to bio or something like that. So they do 25 damage. They now do like 30 damage or something like that. It was a bit of an increase, so it was pretty good. So either way, let's talk about this match right here. Fitzy has got his burrow now being researched. This is something which Blizzard was looking to try and possibly change in the last patch as well. Looking at making the burrow research cost go from 100-100 to 50-50, which means that Zerg players could get it a little bit quicker. They can utilize it in various sorts of busts and things like that. And it's just something really interesting which Fitzy has gone for here. He's started up that research, he's almost done. And the interesting thing will be did Petraeus actually recognize? You can see there is a slight difference in the hatchery. It's little animations here. When it is researching something, it pulsates a little bit more vigorously as compared to a hatchery that isn't actually doing something like building a queen or researching or anything like that. So I would assume that he recognized that. I mean, it's not too hard to notice when you're sort of used to looking at a Zerg. But I mean, either way, we've got Petraeus now building up a bunch of links right now. We've only got the 2 gas, so he hasn't actually gone for a lot of gas, and it looks like he's going to go for a large amount of links, going to try and run his way across the map. Xeris Prime TE is our map. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but this is a very, very big map, and The thing about this is that Fitzy is going to have a lot of time to prepare for this. Not only does he already have some banelings out down here at the front door of the natural, he just moved them over, but he now has a lot of time to prepare, and as we can see, he's going to limit the surface area that Petraeus has to attack in here, and he just, well, alright, well, at my last calculation, that's a lot of banelings for this sort of stage of the game. 15 banelings now morphing in for Petraeus, so he's going to try and just blast his way through this. As we can see, one of the first of those burrowed banelings is forced to be detonated there to defend the queens, and it looks like the banelings will continue to try and charge through here. This will be really interesting for Fitzy because he does have burrow. He can burrow the queens and keep them alive if he decides to, but the Banes have made their way inside the main base here. We'll see how much damage they can get done, but Fitzy does defend with a few of his own Banes now rolling down. Here we go. Will this Bane be able to get too much done? The answer is no. You know why? Because banelings have to take 2 shots to kill some drones unless they've got some upgrades going, and that means that Petraeus is he hasn't really gotten too much damage done here, but as you can see, he's going to continue on with this pressure. We haven't really had any transitions back home here for him. The lair is not done. We can see that that Fitzy has actually dropped off a couple of lings at the possible third bases, so even if Petraeus wanted to go and try and take a third base here, he wouldn't be able to do it until he actually got a spore crawler or some sort of detection across to the third base to get rid of that Zergling. So we can see that the banelings once again trying to make their way inside, and in fact he finds a queen. Will he be able to burrow some of these in time? Yes, he does. Burrows all 4. Could have kept a couple of them up in the up above ground, but otherwise unburrows, loses 2 of the queens. Banes come down to try and defend, and it looks as if Fitzy will be able to defend this. I mean, there are still some lings streaming over from Petraeus, and he's still building quite a few back at home, but I mean, this is going to sort of stabilize at this point for Fitzy. I mean, there isn't really too much going on. 16 lings now pop out for Fitzy, and it looks as if he's going to hold himself together for the moment. Now, one of the Evo chambers did go down. He is now researching +1 to the missile weapon, so we'll see him switch into some roaches to utilize as his defensive units, at least for the time being. But this is a point where Zerg versus Zerg has started to change a little bit in this matchup post the patch. The reason for that, you can get a lot of upgrades on lings and roaches, and you can still do a really good amount of damage with that. And then what you can do is when the mutas come out, throw down a couple of spores, you should be okay in your mineral lines. And this is sort of a point where players are still sort of, you know, messing about. What does this work? Does this work? All these kinds of things to try and see what works in this matchup. But from what I understand, these sort of upgrade-based games are now becoming a pretty big thing here. So Fitzy is able to hold off some of the links, but some of them do get inside. A queen going to try and go down. In fact, she does go so far down that she's underground. Drones will burrow as well, and this is a really interesting advantage of having burrow at this point. Petraeus with a couple of lings off to the side, probably going to switch those into banelings in a moment. But the lings inside the main have not done as much damage as he would have normally done at this point. With burrow already done, Fitzy able to burrow those drones, get them back to work right now. Is he going to be able to? There you go. All right, that's a little bit of the annoying part of burrowing, is it sort of cancels some of their commands. But Petraeus with those hidden banelings off to the side, will he be able to get in there and get some damage done? We'll find out in just a moment. 3 Evo chambers are now done here. Fitzy has the option of doing triple upgrades, which, I don't know, that could be an option for him right now, but here come those Banes. Good splits from Fitzy. As we said before, it takes 2 banelings to actually take down some drones, and that is a pretty big hit there for Petraeus. A couple more Banes will morph off to the side here. I don't think Fitzy checked that at all. No, he didn't check that at any point. Now down towards the third base of Petraeus. He's finally coming to expand to the third and says, what the hell is going on here? Banelings forced to explode on an underground Zergling there to let the third base get started. A very, very weird sort of game going on right now, guys. We've got upgrades galore coming out of Fitzy. This is going to really help him out in any ensuing battles that have come up. And I tell you what, he is going to have a battle to end all battles. The Spire has now finished up. Petraeus has the option of moving into those into the mutas right now. The problem is he's a little bit supply blocked right now, but has finished that up. And as we can see, 7 mutas will get started. Probably going to push that up to around about 9 in a moment as well. So we do see that the very sort of very standard sort of maneuver here from Petraeus now coming out. This is also something which I see him do quite a lot of, is the Zergling run-bys, and wow, very nicely done by Fitzy to take them out. A little bit of a a giggle sort of moment coming out of Petraeus. Unfortunately, not to get able to get too far inside that base. One thing which is a little bit interesting is that he hasn't picked at those rocks there. I know it does take quite a long time to try and take down the rocks, but it would be interesting to see if he's able to get inside there. But I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. We've now got mutas out on the field. Petraeus is going to start to control the map. We're going to look to try and take out some of the overlords that are floating about. Fitzy madly trying to scramble these overlords back home. As you can see, they're flying as quickly as they can. But the thing is, a very signature move from Fitzy. He has a lot of queens out. And while queens aren't necessarily always going to be your best defense when it comes to dealing with mutas, they do a damn good job when there's 6 of them and there are only about sort of 8 or 9 mutas up in the sky. So Fitzy is going to hold for the moment here. He's going to maneuver some of those queens back inside, some creep spread. Going to help out with those queens just moving between bases at this point. And Fitzy is going to hold back the mutas. In fact, is he going to snipe that one off? No, he doesn't. No snipe there. But now back at home for Petraeus. Third base, up and running. Weapons now coming out for those missile units. We've also got +1 on the air attacks, also being researched by Petraeus. He's going to be able to take out this Overseer before it's able to get too much intel on what's going on. And things will sort of just sort of stabilize at this point, just for a short while. While we see Petraeus, he's getting that, he's got that map control, he's got a lot of vision across the map here, able to stop Fitzy from getting too much vision of his own. And as you can see, Fitzy continues to bring out the queens. We've now got a total of 8 queens in this pack here. Or sorry, 7 queens here in this pack, ready to defend against those mutas. And I mean, with a spore at the back here, look at that damage. 30 damage is now being done by those spores. So this means that these mutas cannot really commit to attack into anything unless they want to try and take out the spore, and not to mention the extended threat now of having these infestors out. These guys have got a lot of energy ready to go, and it looks as if Fitzy, he's going to dispose of one of his Evo chambers here. I don't think he... is the positioning wrong? I don't know. He's able to move through here. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just for efficiency of sort of moving his units out en masse. But one thing which I do like to see here from Petraeus is the fact that he is not going to go hard out into mutas. Like a lot of players pre-patch at this point would be saying, oh god, I need to get out another 63 mutas because that's how you win the game. Not anymore. As we said before, mutas don't get as much damage as they used to. They don't get as much work done as they used to. The spores here, infestors are now out for Fitzy. There's the gaggle of queens out. Is it a gaggle of queens? I don't know. We'll work with it. We'll work on that. Help me out here, people. But the queens are now out, so this means that these mutas aren't really going to be as efficient as they would normally be. So we can see now a couple of brilliant fungals going down from Fitzy. In fact, a couple of them actually missed, but he's able to follow up because there are so many infestors at the back. This attack from Petraeus not getting too much damage done. And I think maybe even with a couple of burrows here, yep, there's a burrow to keep some of these queens alive, to keep some of the roaches alive. Keep in mind, the roaches get that amazing amount of regen when they are burrowed. As you can see here, already back to full health right now, this roach, after being down at around about 90 health at one point. And Fitzy has got ultras coming out now. These big boys are going to be added on to the field right now, and Petraeus, he's got no vision. There is no detection here to find these infestors and the roaches. But there we go, an infestor finally comes along. We'd like to see perhaps a second overlord to find out where these units are. But now Fitzy, we'll have a look at his units here. We've got all of these roaches. We've got roach on roach battles here. It looks like it is going to go the way of Petraeus. Like, he has the numbers at the moment, but one thing he doesn't have is the upgrades. 1-2 upgrades on those roaches on Fitzy, and despite having a roach deficit at one point there, he's still getting a lot of damage done because Petraeus is still down at 0-1, still researching some of his upgrades back at home. We've got +1 on the carapace being researched right now, and as we said, despite the roach advantage here, those upgrades are worth their weight in gold at this point. And it looks as if Petraeus is going to be able to push inside though, but look at all those red roaches he's got here. He doesn't have burrow. He can't burrow some of these units, where Fitzy could burrow some of them and see if he could keep some of them alive and just sort of trade a little bit more efficiently. But as you can see, Petraeus doing his best with these roaches, keeping a lot of them alive, and Lings are now streaming across the map alongside some more roaches here. And as that +1 carapace kicks in, it's really going to help out Petraeus. But the big problem is that at this Evo chamber, the only one to not get targeted down, +3 to weapons, is now about to kick in for Fitzy, and that is really going to help him out at this point. There are no more ultras coming out just because Fitzy is struggling a little bit for his minerals at this point, just scrambling to get any sorts of units out that he can. We'd love to see Petraeus try and target down this Ultralisk Cavern. But as we can see, he's having a little bit of trouble on his own, trying to fend off all of these roaches. There we go, we're trying to target that down now, but the roaches of Fitzy come about. They've got their +1 on their armor, they've got +3 on their weapons, and he's going to really take the fight to Petraeus. But as you can see here, Petraeus with the continuous rally of units here, back at home. Still no switch into anything higher at this point. So Petraeus is really betting on this attack, getting some good damage done. And I mean, we're at about a 40 supply difference at this point. But is it going to help out when Fitzy can continually burrow his roaches, keep them alive, a little bit of micro there, up at the side? This is, I wonder if anyone could cast their mind back to sort of 2010 or 2009 even, when Blizzard first mentioned what roaches were for, and they're like, yeah, you can burrow them in battles and make them regen really quickly and all this kind of stuff, and it didn't really happen as much, but this is like one of the first times in a little while that I've seen a player really utilize their roach burrow to try and keep their units alive as long as they possibly can, and Fitzy has done a wonderful job of that. Now 1-3 on his upgrades, he's got Swarm Host now coming out, so a little bit of a transition here. This is one of the other units which is really going to start to make a difference in this particular matchup, I believe, which is the Swarm Host. I think, like a lot of players, we have seen how the sort of, some say it's boring, some say it's interesting, some say it's, you know, a little bit of a sort of a lame sort of tactic to use, but Swarm Host Turtle style is something that could come about here in ZvZ, with the addition of the large amounts of damage from the Spore Crawlers to keep mutas back. If you can go into mutas, then possibly switch over into Swarm Host, it could be a really interesting way to play out this matchup. Of course, you've got the free Locust, which can help out with that extra little bit of damage. If the Swarm Host can stay alive underground, then that's, you know, that's a really good way to use some of your money. And now, as we can see, Petraeus, with all those attacks that he did, he slowed down the economy of Fitzy. And Fitzy was down at a really low amount of workers at one point there. I believe it was around about 20 workers or something at one point. But he's been able to resecure his third base now. This is a very, very secure base at that, because we've now got the Swarm Hosts out. We've got quite a few roaches here as well. And Petraeus still a little bit behind on his upgrades at this point. So we'll see if he's able to push it and get much damage done. But I'm not sure if this attack is going to go too well for him. He does have a huge roach lead at this point. We can see 40 to 22, but, you know, look at those upgrades being factored in there for Fitzy. He's got a couple of queens transfusing some of the roaches as well. And the count of Petraeus is still up though, 20 to 13 here. And he's going to try and power his way through, taking down queens. There's his own burrow. He says, I can do that too. And Petraeus is going to burrow some of his roaches. Going to bide his time. Pops up, says hello, I'm out of here. And the Infestus and Hydras and even a Stray Ultra now come about. And as you can see, Fitzy will hold that back for the moment. So Petraeus just buys himself a little bit of time. He's got this extra fourth base now up and running. We've got all of these gas guys is up and running. So what's that? Eight gases now coming in for Petraeus. He certainly has a lot of options in terms of what he can do. And at Fitzy, well, he's struggling a little bit. Just one of these gas guys is not exactly mining efficiently. Neither is this one. What's going on here, Mr. Fitzy? But he's not mining as efficiently as you would like to see at this point. In fact, 2 on the one in the main as well. I'm not sure what exactly is going on here from Fitzy. He's just trying to save gas. He's very environmental at this point. And we'll see, because I think this is going to sort of slow down for a little bit. We've got Petraeus now getting out 6 Infestors. His pathogen glands just about to complete. Yeah, that should sync up quite nicely. I was a little bit worried there. I'm like, is the pathogen glands going to complete in time? And yes, it is. But we've also got Hydra Speed now finishing up or getting started for Petraeus. So he's going to add in some of those Hydras. They're high DPS, but very low health sort of units. But they are quite strong in these sort of Roach Hydra battles, which we may see coming out of these two players here. So I'll be really interested to see how they move about from this sort of point. We've got Fitzy, 2 Swarm Hosts. Is he going to build more? This is a big question. I think if he wants to take this base, we may see a couple more pop out from him here. It's just a nice free way to try and defend a base. If you can send out, you know, if you can put Locusts in this sort of position here where they can defend against, you know, Roaches and Lings trying to do run-bys and that kind of thing, then that sort of saves you a little bit of money on building things like, you know, continuously rebuilding roaches and all that kind of thing. But as you can see, Fitzy has fixed up his gas. We've now got that full gas complement coming out from him. So he's going to get that economy back into shape here. We can see the worker count now is 42 to 54. So Petraeus in a very nice lead there. He's got a lot of gas coming in, as we said here, which is a very powerful component of this particular matchup. So this is, as we said, it's sort of gone a bit passive at the moment here, but Petraeus is going to get his own Swarm Host down. We're going to move into a Swarm Host battle here, folks. We're going to see free units against free units. I wonder if that reminds anybody of everything, such as the end of Wings of Liberty with Broodlords against Broodlords and Infested Terrans against Infested Terrans. It's the way of the Zerg, apparently, just having these free trade agreement battles where you can try and just continuously use these free units, and, you know, it can make for some really interesting fights, but sometimes it can make for a very turtley sort of style, and that's kind of what we've gotten to at this point of the game. We'll have a look at what Petraeus can see here. He does have a couple of Locusts now pushing out. One of the Swarm Hosts of Fitzy has somehow made its way across here, and the Infestors of Petraeus scouting out where where the Swarm Hosts are. He's going to make his way across. Will he be able to sneak his way in? Yes, he does. Alright, so sneaks his way through, but only gets a couple of those Infested Terrans out. Not going to do too much damage at all. And Fitzy is able to make his way over here. There's a party by the lava. It's very cold today on Xeris Prime, so he's sticking by the lava to get a little bit warm at this point. But it's a really weird position of this game right now. We've got a lot of these Swarm Hosts now out for Petraeus. He's got 2 more on the way, taking him to a total of 11 very soon. He's also got a lot of these Infestors here. Got a lot of energy, may be able to utilize them at some point to try and lock down Locusts, may try and use them to, you know, hit his opponent's Infestors, something like this. I'm not sure, we'll see very soon, because I have a feeling the battle is going to occur. Chitinous plating being researched by Fitzy at this point, so he's going to add in a little bit more defense for these Ultras. We'll probably see... I don't know, in fact, I'm not even sure why he's researching that at this point. It may not be sort of the best upgrade, like that investment to try and say, well, I need more armor on the one Ultralist that I have out on the map. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. We'll see. He may try and switch back into Ultras at some point. They are very good when there's the assistance of things like the Infestors, so we'll see very soon if he's going to start to switch across, and in fact he is. He's made me look the fool. We've got 2 more Ultras now coming out. Bear in mind, the Ultras, they don't have the same sort of upgrades that their counterparts have on the ground. As we can see, the missile-based units have got 2-3 for Fitzy. Meanwhile, his opponent is up to a total of 2-2, so Petraeus just a tiny bit behind, but he is going to have his 3-3 a little bit quicker than Fitzy is going to. So there is that free trade agreement battle in the middle of the map. We've got Petraeus winning out there just purely because he actually has quite a few more Swarm Hosts than his opponent. 15-6 right now. But as we can see on the production tab, we've got 3 Ultras now about to pop out here. Going to add into that big force that Fitzy has. This isn't necessarily like your standard sort of mixture, but it is a very strong mixture. Just looking at it now, we've got Hydras for the DPS over the shoulders of the Ultras and the Roaches. We've got Roaches and Ultras to tank. We've got Infestors at the back. A few free Swarm Hosts thrown in. Locusts thrown in to try and add in that extra bit of DPS and tanking. Means that, you know, that is a pretty strong composition here from Fitzy. Whereas for Petraeus, what have we got over here for him? We've got a huge total of Swarm Hosts here. This is going to be really interesting because if the Swarm Hosts are out of position, if their timing on their Locust production is just sort of out of sync, that could cost Petraeus the game. We'll see. He starts off with 1 salvo, going to slowly fire across, actually not moving into the best position there, but the Locusts will eventually find their target. And Fitzy just says, well, I'm coming across to the opposite side of the map. He's watched some games of Terrans and Protoss trying to deal with mass Swarm Hosts and said, well, that's the strategy, is to try and go around them, try and come across to this sort of position here where the Swarm Hosts are not, and where the Locusts are not, more importantly. And if you can find your way across to try... Was that the... I don't know what the body of that was. I think that was a Roach or something like that. But anyway, if you can try and avoid the Locusts, come into the Swarm Hosts when they're out of position, when they don't have any Locust protection, you can be in a really good position right now. And Petraeus is, in fact, caught out at this point. Ultras just slicing their way through those Swarm Hosts there. Will he be able to kill them before the Locusts come out and add in that huge amount of damage there? But the Infestors from the back coming in. It looks as if Petraeus is in a bit of trouble right now. All the Swarm Hosts going down. Hydras and Roaches at the back, unfortunately not able to put out enough DPS. The Ultras just have so much damage at this point. They've got 4 on their armor. They don't have any attack upgrades, but I mean, the fact that they're there to tank, as we said before, the Hydras just shooting over the shoulders, and that means that Petraeus is going to go down. So a really interesting sort of game there between these 2 players. It's not necessarily a standard sort of game, but I mean, it was an interesting one nonetheless. And I mean, as Zerg vs. Zerg continues to evolve with the changes to Spore Crawlers, and as we can see, players starting to use more upgrade-based styles with Lings and sometimes even Roaches and Infestors now coming back into the mix, things will still keep changing, and I'm sure we'll see Fitzy utilizing some odd strategies from time to time, but also keep an eye out for Petraeus. He's a fantastic Zerg player from Team Frenetic of Ray, but well done in Fitzy in this game. He takes out Petraeus. If you've got some Hellbats at the front, there's actually not too much that you're going to be able to do against that. It'd be a slow push inside that third base. So this position, at least, there's a little bit more space. Of course, there is a very similar sort of attack path from the south here.